Today we're finishing up our notes on trig, and we're going to start with the sine function. Just think about sine for a moment. Sine theta equals the opposite side of the triangle, over the hypotenuse. And let's say that I was not solving for one side of the triangle like we were before, but instead I'm trying to find theta, the angle. Let's say that there's an angle missing and we got to solve for theta. Well, what we would need to do mathematically is divide by sine. And so you can see this is kind of sloppy. It would be opposite over adjacent divided by sine. These signs would cancel on this side, and we'd be left with something like this. Theta equals opposite over hypotenuse divided by sine. And again, this just looks pretty messy. What you want to think about from Algebra 1 is that if I write 1 over x, that is equal to x to the minus 1. This is just one of your exponent rules. In other words, if I had 1 over 3, I could express that as 3 to the minus 1. So in this case right here, we're going to express this in a different way. We're going to say theta, the angle that we're trying to find, is equal to sine to the minus 1 of the opposite side of the triangle over the hypotenuse. And so by expressing it this way, it kind of neatens the math up, and it also gives us a way to use our graphing calculator. On our graphing calculator, what we're going to do is press second, and then the second button after that, we're going to press sine. So now we're going to be activating those letters in a different color that are at the top of our sine button. And that will activate the sine to the minus 1. And so all you'll do in your calculator is say second, and then press sine, and then enter the ratio that you've got there, like say 13 over 27. And you'll close the parentheses and press equals. So let me give you an example of how to work this out. So here I'm missing an angle, and from this perspective, the perspective of x, I'm going to label the triangle as opposite and hypotenuse. And so now I'm going to set up the function. I'm going to choose which one I need first of all. So I've got three choices. I've got so, ca, or toa. I can use sine, cosine, or tangent. And which one I use is just dependent upon what I know. I've got an O and I've got an H. So I'm going to use sine. So I'm going to say that the sine of x, see this time I don't know what the angle is. The sine of x is equal to the opposite side, 15, over the hypotenuse, which is 24. And so now, in my next step, I'm going to divide by sine in order to isolate x and get x all by itself. So now it's going to say x equals sine to the minus 1 of 15 over 24. So in my calculator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press second and then sine and then put in the ratio. And you should get, let me do that on my, so when you do this in your calculator, you should get 38.6. And just round to the nearest tenth and make sure that you put a degree sign because this is a degree measure. This is an angle that we're finding. Okay, so it's not complete unless you put a degree on there or a radian. We're not doing radians yet. You're going to discover what radians are all about in pre-calculus. Okay, so let's work another example. So this next example, we're going to use a slightly different equation. So we're going to label this triangle with respect to x. So that would be opposite over here, adjacent over here, and then this, of course, is the hypotenuse. It's the one opposite from the 90. So since I have a and h, I'm going to use ca, or cosine, right? Cosine of x. I don't know what x is. I'm trying to find it. Cosine of x is equal to the adjacent side, 8 over 11. And so now I'm going to divide by cosine. And so x is equal to cosine to the minus 1 of 8 over 11. You can go ahead and do that in your calculator. And you should get 43.3 degrees. All right, one more and then you're off and running. Okay, so in this example, with respect to x, we'll label the triangle opposite
Josie Pius
and
to the main
adjacent.
office. Josie
The
Pius
hypotenuse is
to
not
the main
marked,
office.
so what we're going to do here is just use TOA. We're going to use tangent. The tan of x is equal to the adjacent side over the, the opposite side, 20, over the adjacent side, 37. And so now I'm going to divide by tangent, and x will be equal to tan to the minus 1 of 20 divided by 37. And you can go ahead and do that in your calculator. Tan to the minus 1 of 20 over 37. And you should get x equals 28.4 degrees.